Howdy, it's Jace. Let's talk about sex and intimacy. You down? You want to come along for the ride? All right. Sex and intimacy are not always the same thing. We use those words interchangeably in English in America often because intimacy and being intimate was a way to say sex without saying sex. It comes from like that Victorian era Puritan mentality of like, you can't talk about sex. Like, oh no, that's just like the worst. Let's not talk about sex. It's rude. But you can say I was intimate with so-and-so, or, we experienced intimacy. So let's break those two apart. Sometimes they go together, sometimes they don't. Intimacy can be present whether sex is there or not. We have intimacy with our partners. We have intimacy with our friends. We have intimacy with our family. We have intimacy with ourselves if we're doing it right. And none of that has to have sex involved, and most of it shouldn't, right? Intimacy is standing in your pure truth, being vulnerable, and letting others see that. It's showing up without the pretenses, without the curtain, the wall, the veil, and just say, like, this is me, and I'm open, and I'm here, and I'm letting you see that. I've heard this and I've read it, that intimacy is actually into me, you see. It is allowing others to see the real you. And when someone else is showing up that way as well, and you're connecting on that true level, the level of your true selves, you're experiencing intimacy. Sometimes that is during a sexual encounter. And in my experience, they're more enjoyable and more powerful when those are combined. So that would look the same way as just like, here's who I really am, my quirks, my stretch marks, my flaws, like the whole thing. And I'm showing up and I'm here and I'm true and I'm, available and I'm vulnerable and I'm opening myself to you. And that makes for a beautiful sexual experience. Absolutely. Now we all know that sex can also happen without intimacy. And that's not necessarily bad or negative. You can have some really fun sex without intimacy, and that might feel great for you. That might feel like right where you're at now, and you don't want to open yourself up, and that's your jam. I'm not here to say anything is bad or good or whatever. To each their own. I will just say, though, that when we do open ourselves up to sexual experiences, we're actually allowing someone else to enter our life in a really special way. And we're letting them engage with our body, our vessel, in a very unique way as well. There is a connection and a bond that happens even when intimacy isn't there. We're designed that way. We are designed that way chemically, where bonds begin to form, and also on a much deeper level, on that soul level, that spiritual level, the level of emotions, mentality, all of that is combined. And you can't say like, well, it's casual sex, so it's not. Well, it is, because you're designed that way. There's no stopping that. You might not feel it or experience, you may have blocked that. I certainly did, but it's still going on. So that's just information to have on when you're making those connections, even if they don't feel special, even if it's a stranger, even if it's in a public restroom, hypothetically speaking, of course, those connections are still happening, even if you're not intimate with that person. So just food for thought on that. Intimacy is something that you can practice. You can open yourself up a little bit here and there and grow that trust. You don't have to just like walk in the room and be like, "Blah, here I am, here's all of me," with a person or with your friends or whatever it is. Or maybe you're comfortable doing that. That's great too. If you're not, practice it. Set up an intentional intimacy practice where you are setting aside time or situations where you're going to move more and more into intimacy. Just like that one step into your discomfort zone with intimacy. Maybe that means having a conversation that you don't normally have, or sharing a bit of information about that you don't normally have. It might mean doing an activity, making eye contact, holding someone for a little bit longer, maybe staying in someone's presence a little bit longer than you're normally used to. Just practice it. All of this thing called life, this human experience, it's all a practice. This gets to be too. And it's kind of scary at first, or at least I should speak for me. Practicing intimacy was very, very scary for me. My main area of addiction was sex addiction, which is also known as an intimacy disorder. And I would argue that all areas of addiction are intimacy disorders. And so intimacy for me was my nightmare. I didn't feel safe. I didn't want to be vulnerable. And it really took quite a long time to practice that. And now oh my gosh, I'm just going to speak for me. Like, it's so wonderful. It's so beautiful. Experiencing intimacy is like some next level shit. It is awesome. It is like ecstasy here on earth, with nothing but the moment and being present and showing up in my beautiful truth and receiving someone else's beautiful truth. Scars, brokenness, fractures, messiness, whatever, the whole thing. Intimacy doesn't mean like I am now perfect and now I'm showing myself to you. No, it's like I am now present and I'm showing myself to you. I'm here, hello, and here's what it looks like. And it's fun in time. It's a practice. I encourage you to set an intimacy practice in your life and to challenge yourself if that's scary for you. That's it from me today. If you want to find out more about me or working with me, you can head to jacedowney.com. Please do subscribe to this channel, this page, so that you can keep getting these videos, keep getting this info, and that we can continue to connect. Until next time.